Okay, so you're not a bare bum basic beginner painter anymore, but what's next? Once you get past the beginner stages and start moving away from paint styles like heavy metal, a whole new world of miniature painting starts to open up. And to me, this is where it stops being miniature painting and moves more into miniature art. I know this sounds kind of weird and pretentious, but this is where we realize that instead of a step-by-step paint-by-numbers approach, what we're actually trying to do is replicate the behavior of light on a smaller scale. But it is pretty easy to get lost in the terminology, ideas, and just pure information overload, because a lot of these ideas are honestly just a little bit too advanced to understand and apply straight out of the gate. And let's be honest, at the moment you're probably a little bit more worried about smooth blends and wondering what the consistency of skim milk is. Because I'm not trying to flex on you nerds, this video is not about non-metallic metal, terminator lines, bounce lights, or reflections. It's simply how to pick colors and where to put them. And to do that, we need 3 colors: a shadow, a midtone, and a highlight. And even though it seems like the second step, you actually pick your midtone first. You do this anyway without even realizing it, because the midtone is just the color that we want the model to be. And in this case, we're going to be painting the worst babysitters in the galaxy since Anakin Skywalker, salamanders. So yeah, our midtone green is going to be Greenskin. And now we're going to use that color to help pick our shadow tone. A lot of the time, people will just pick a darker version of the midtone to work as their shadow tone, and that's fine, it works. But what I like to do is make the shadows interesting and pick a darker color with a different hue. This would add more visual interest, make it more exciting and dynamic to look at without having an overwhelmingly distracting impact. But we're going to keep this simple, so while I would use Terrestrial Titan as my deepest darkest shadow, because purple is dope and dope things happen when you use purple, this time we're going to stick with Scarab Green. This is technically from the teal flexible triad, so there is a little blue in there making it feel a little cooler. And cool tones generally feel a little bit darker when you pair them with warm highlights. And with the shadow tones and midtones sorted, it is highlight time. Just like shadows usually being a darker version of the midtone, highlights get the same kind of treatment but in the other direction to be lighter. But we're going to add a little bit of zazz to the mix because again we can shift the hue of that lighter paint, this time making it warmer, which is going to introduce a little bit more luminosity. Which is why we're going to take Emerald Forest. It's a vibrant green with a little bit of yellow in the mix. And that little bit of yellow is going to bring some warmth to the table. So now we have a cool dark green, kind of a true green, and a warm vibrant green. So not only do we have contrast between dark to light, but we have contrast between cool and warm. And now that we have all of our colors, where the fuck do we put them? Spoilers, this is the finished model, and for now we're going to forget all about the colors, tones, and hues and just focus on the light placement. For this, I imagined a light source directly in front of the model, and this helps to give us a direction to kind of point the highlights at. If you're having a tough time knowing where the light would affect, here's a quick tip. Use the real world light and look for the shiny parts. While holding the model at that golden angle, grab a photo with your phone and you can use this as a reference to come back to. Or, I have another trick later on in the video, and by later in the video, I mean after these commercial messages. Now that that's done, let's recap those colors real quick. One cool shadow tone of Scarab Green, one mid-tone of Greenskin, and Emerald Forest for the highlights. Real quick on consistency, we want the paint to flow off the brush, so we're going to thin down the Scarab Green just a little bit with some medium. Now that we're into the actual application of paint, this is where the terminology changes a little bit. So Scarab Green, which we've been calling our shadow tone, is now our base layer. And because we're going to keep it simple, we're building from dark to light, which means that base layer or shadow tone is going everywhere. The only places I'm avoiding are the panel recesses, just so we don't have to come back in and blackline for that detail separation a little bit later on. It's easier this way. Hey, remember that trick I was telling you about? Here it is. Using Greenskin, which is also our midtone, I'm going to start to map out all the shiny parts that we can see on the model. Yes, we did grab a photo and that's going to be a great reference to come back to, but as far as actually placing it on the model, this is going to help us out a bunch. And this is just to make sure that all of our highlights are going to point in the same direction. It's that consistency of direction that actually sells the effect of having a singular light source. While these ideas are a step towards realism, this tutorial is not really based in realism. My biggest influences in art are comic books, anime, and 80s movies posters, and luckily they're kind of transferable into an easily explainable style. So while this will help you grasp the foundations of realist work, this is somewhere between imitation and animation. Now that we have our light placement mapped out, it's time to fill in those spaces. And this is where you usually start to hear things like shingles on a roof or a topographical map. And that just means we want to build up by adding a layer on top while still showing some of the previous layer. But what isn't covered is how much space to take up. Theoretically, the midtone is the color that we want the model to read as. So it makes sense that the midtone is the color that we want to take up the most space. Thinking in the same way of edge highlighting how it frames out all of our shapes, the shadow tone is basically going to do the same thing but as a silhouette. So when it comes to adding the midtone layer, we want to leave that silhouette just around the outside of each shape and usually mostly towards the bottom. And I say mostly and usually because the shadows are basically supposed to go on the opposite side of where your light source is. And because our light source is coming from in front and above, that means all of that shadowed silhouette is going to be towards the back and down a little bit. A very generalized rule of thumb that I tend to stick to is quarter, half, quarter. The shadows will take up a quarter of the bottom, the midtone takes up half right in the middle, and then the highlights will take the quarter on top. While highlights become the star of the show, the midtone is the actual foundation and the shadows just become the reinforcement. While I'm somewhat skimming over blending as far as application and technique go, this video is a little bit more directed towards light placement. For a little bit more on the steps of application themselves, check this one out. Let's bring in those highlights, and this time for consistency we want a little bit thinner than what we were using for our layer. But the placement is exactly the same. Remember all those little dots on all the shiny parts that we put on? Yep, well we're going to do essentially the exact same thing. Terminology wise, you can call it mapping, you can call it sketching, and if you really wanted to, you could call it Bartholomew Westchesterly III. All that actually matters is that you're picking out all the shiny bits and still pushing in the same direction as we was before. But back to the idea of shingles on a roof and the quarter, half, quarter, we're only going to take up that little bit of space on the top, and it's generally going to be on the complete opposite side of the shadow. A lot of people get lost in the idea of placement, and that's because we're making it too complicated. Learning from the best of the best is great and always encouraged. But to be able to take in the ideas and subtle nuances that these artists work in, you have to have a fairly solid foundation and understanding first. And this will take time and practice because some things can only be learned with experience. And if you don't have that experience, all you have to do is spend the time. And for those first few times of trying something out, achieving the goal is actually secondary. It's all those mistakes that you kind of want because that's the real experience here. Knowing what not to do is just as important. Now obviously there has been a lot of focus on greens in this videos, but these ideas are transferable to other schemes. This is just a basic framework that can be repeated and literally why we spent all that time going over color selection. But there are a few more shorts on the channel going over blue, red, green, yellow, pink, black, white, and even a pastel space wolf that kinda looks like Robocop. And I've kept all the footage and we'll be doing extra little guides throughout the year on Patreon, talking about not only light placement and schemes, but how different colors take up different spaces. And you will even find all of the diagrams for those schemes on Patreon right now. Link in the description. While I have a little bit of practice under my belt, when I'm not filming, an entire space marine in this style will take me about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Which means in terms of efficiency, this has the potential to become a tabletop standard. And if you're a painter instead of a dice roller, you just got one step closer to Golden Demon. Or at least just having a kick-ass looking model. As always, a massive thank you to InGames, the Army Painter, and the best Patreon members in the world. Big love, you filthy heretics.